OMORI was released by indie studio OMORI as a demo in April 2018, with the full version launched in December 2020. It features hand-drawn art, pixel graphics, turn-based battle mechanics, and multiple endings. Its story follows the main character, who is named by the player but referred to canonically as Sunny, through his adventures in Faraway Town, and follows his alter ego OMORI through Headspace, a surreal, dreamlike world he constructed to escape from reality and suppress his past. Despite its seemingly cheerful appearance, the game deals with many heavy topics, including depression, trauma, self-harm, and suicide. In this video, I will analyze the principles of Ludology and Narratology and psychology present in the design of OMORI and their effect on the player. Modal embedding is the technique of telling a story inside a story, set in a different spatial temporal universe to the main narrative, such as dreams, hallucinations, or fantasies. Botsman argues that the primary ludological and narratological purpose of this in games is to provide a restricted tutorial where the player is trained, with the restrictions present explained by the dream setting. In contradiction to this suggestion, Headspace isn't a restricted version of the real world. It is the opposite. There are more areas to explore, a wider array of characters to interact with, and a much more expansive battle system. Since the dream world is also set 4 years before the events of the game, it allows players to uncover details of Sunny's past while still making sense within the game's main narrative. As this dream world is a much more rewarding and engaging place for the player to inhabit, players naturally develop a preference to spend time there rather than the real world the narrative takes place in, which directly parallels Sunny's desire to retreat from the real world into fantasy. Through causing the player to mirror the character they control, modal embedding in OMORI is used to reinforce the player's understanding of, and connection to, the game's characters and, in turn, its narrative as a whole. OMORI's narrative is not told chronologically. Obviously, its setting constantly switches between Faraway Town in the present to Headspace in a fantasy version of 4 years ago. However, OMORI's fragmented narrative structure is best displayed through the game mechanic of reconstructing Basil's photo albums, particularly in black space. Here, the player has to navigate through disturbing rooms, collecting photos, each of which holds a piece of information about what happened to Mari, but does not make sense on its own, before figuring out what order they go in the photo album. This forces the player to, quite literally, piece together events, in the same way Sunny has to reconstruct his repressed memories. Through simulating the effects of trauma in the player's own experience, OMORI aims to cause the player to better understand Sunny and feel more sympathy towards his struggles throughout the game. According to information gap theory, curiosity is sparked from the revelation that there is a gap between what is known and what is desired to be known. An example of this is in OMORI's prologue, when Sunny's childhood friend, Basil, finds a photo of Mari, Sunny's sister, saying the words, "This can't be Mari, she's," before the cutscene ends, leaving players intensely curious about what actually happened to Mari. OMORI uses this curiosity to encourage the player to continue playing, and to replicate Sunny's mental state in the player's own experiences, as Sunny has repressed his memories to the point he also cannot recall the events of 4 years prior. OMORI uses behavior theory on players throughout the game, most notably in the stab option available in white space and sometimes other areas. This option appears when players are otherwise softlock in an area. Upon seeing this action in the game's menu, a player's natural reaction would be horror. However, it is the only way to escape white space, and while OMORI is shown to die, he is perfectly healthy the next time the player enters Headspace. Hence, through reward of access and the absence of any meaningful consequences, the player is conditioned to view the stab action as just another means of travel, and to overlook its suicidal nature. This conditioning comes into play in the later stages of the game. Firstly, in the alternate ending, where using stab causes Sunny to stab himself in real life while asleep, and most meaningfully in what is known as Miwo's punishment room in black space, where the game implies that players have no choice but to harm Miwo, the cat, in order to leave the room. Players reported that upon finding the stab option, they took it without a second thought. One player wrote, "When I got to this point, I'd realized all the time stabbing myself were just another mode of transportation. So, when I saw I had to cut the cat that had done nothing wrong, I was desperate to find another way, and upon seeing that I could, I didn't hesitate to stab. It didn't dawn on me that I literally ended myself instead of a cat with no hesitation." Again, this conditioning is done to cause the player's actions to replicate Sunny's mental state. Through causing players to view stabbing their own character as the better option, or even a normal thing to do, OMORI attempts to help their players understand Sunny's experiences and struggles with depression and suicidal ideation.